I think the trauma stuff, we're doing some of that in Ohio. I say this, well, I think there are kids that benefit from that. Not all of them are. I mean, you got to be very careful who you're going to put in a trauma-based program because they don't all have trauma. You know, and so I think it's a very select group, but I like the fact it's cognitive. It teaches some skills, like DBT teaches some great skills, but it's probably not enough, you know, alone there.
Have you heard of Phoenix?
Phoenix, we're using Phoenix in Ohio. We did review it. I'm not using it. The states adopted it. I say this, I think it covers a lot of ground. Make sure you're doing the practice and the role play. It's not that strong in that, but I think Phoenix can work Phoenix.
We have a gang group going on with the Taiwan Youth Services Commission that we use ART and the Phoenix combined.
Yeah, because Phoenix has a gang piece.
Right.
People like the gang piece.
Right.
Yeah, no, we don't discourage its use. Yeah, I think you're okay with it. And I like the ART with that. That's a great idea. Yeah. Anything else you use? That's all. Yeah. Forget about it. Forget about it.
Can you say more about that? I've heard several people mention girls and boys circle since we've been here, and I'm not familiar with it.
I don't run this one. For one of my
Do you sit in? Tell them what you've seen. This is Carrie. Carrie's one of my associates.
Girl Circle is basically a process group. So you'll have a topic for each session and you'll process maybe things in your life that relate around that topic. There's no skills, it's not skills based, you're not learning anything, you're basically just talking. Again, you can use it for people who for girls who do have some serious trauma issues, but I would not consider it a treatment intervention. It's a process group, it's a talk group.
And they love to talk about it. Yeah, I mean, you know, they talk to cows, you know, but everything but their real risk factors. That's the problem with those processes. And I'll say, okay, you want to do it, that's fine, but let's get back to the dosage issue and structure it. So you only got so much time. You're going to waste 2 hours, 3 hours a week, whatever, on something that's probably not going to get you very far. That's where you have to start thinking about it. But we would never recommend something like this.
He had mentioned 7 challenges and trauma. You didn't address 7 challenges.
I've seen it. It's been a long time since I've looked at it. I'd have to look at it carefully, and I don't remember much about it. It's just substance abuse one.
It's cognitive behavioral, motivational interviewing.
Yeah, they put it together. Yeah, that's a pretty good approach. I've seen a number of. I've never seen any data on it. I've never seen any studies on it. But that's a pretty good approach. A lot of people use criminal conduct and substance abuse treatment by Milkman and Wamberg, which is has an adolescent version. We just came across a new one, a skill-oriented one we like. We're developing one now. It's not ready yet that we're going to give to people.
We like your screensaver. We like your screensaver.
Better her than me up there.
True that.
There you
Which curriculum is that?
I want to be in that
go.
group.
Yeah, probably. I have to watch that. So we are developing one now because we're doing some work and we really think that we need a good COG curriculum, or substance abuse curriculum. So we're going to pilot it. It'll be ready the end of November. We're going to pilot it, and then we'll start to distribute it for folks that want it. But it'll probably be after the first of the year before it's ready to go.
What do you think about the MET-CBT model? The 5 and 12?
Again, it does kind of the motivation and the COG.
A couple of individual motivational sessions, and
again, I haven't seen any data on it.
No,
Any published studies.
yeah, it's quite.
Is
actually,
there?
Yeah.
All right, I'd have to look
I
it
can
up, but,
make you.
Yeah, if it's showing it's effective, then yeah,
That's
absolutely.
getting pretty good
Absolutely.
outcomes.
I just wanted to comment on the barriers section that you did. I'm from Merrimack Center, and we converted the detention center over from a punitive model to a cognitive behavior behavior modification model about 3.5 years ago. And it's amazing because we have experienced every single one of those barriers. So I think you're right on target, and
Tough to convert places. Very
it's
tough.
really, really tough. It has been a really big,
Yeah.
a huge, major undertaking. But now we've gotten to the point where I think one of your main points was getting the staff to actually use the cognitive restructuring part of the program with the kids. You know, they've gotten down the behavior mod, they've gotten down, you know, the praise and, you know, the encouragement, the consequences. But it's really getting into that cognitive piece, and also at the supervisory level, having that quality assurance in place to have the staff be consistent. So I think you hit the nail on the
Yeah.
head.
Well, when we developed the first major program we went and developed for the state, there was no program. So we went in from scratch, you know, the staff worked, we designed it, right? And then the next one was a conversion. A program that had been existed for years, now we gotta change it. And I will tell you, that was a hell of a lot harder. And I went up and I did the kickoff, and there were staff that like, am I still gonna be allowed to? And I go, no, you're not. You know, and it was, you know, it was tough. And part of it was, we tried to do this, you know, collaboration more with them. Now, I will tell you, we're much more directive.
Right.
They got a little wiggle room, but there's things we're not negotiating.
Yeah,
No.
and we had Dave Roush and his team come down and do our initial training, and there's still a lot of negotiating that is, you know, constantly being attempted, but staying, you know, with the fidelity of the program is a constant struggle with that, and
Yeah, it's a never end. I mean, it's constant, yeah,
Yeah.
it's constant.
So what works in addressing those barriers, especially for the level supervisors?
Well, as I said here, I think you've got to involve them in the decision-making in the process. And for example, with ethics now, we've decided prior to coming in, we're going to do a video conference meeting with the supervisors and the administrators. And we're going to walk through some of the common problems we see and some of the questions we get and things that we can't solve for them, all right? When an officer says, you know, I got a caseload of 6, I can't fix that. I mean, so I want them to know that they need to get their staff ready, that we need their buy-in. So we're going to try that a little bit. But I think you have to have the mid-level people. They have to be involved in it. They have to learn the model and how to use it. And that's why, for example, we first started, we just trained them. And then I got thinking, but we're training them, but they're not necessarily using it. Some of them don't supervise kids. Okay? So now, what we're saying is, because some of them are going to be the trainers we train down the road, we're not going to train you as a trainer unless you've actually used the model, right? And so we want them to see how well it works. Because it's easy for me to say to you, you need to do this. You know what, Chris, you're not doing it right. I've never done it myself, right? And now I can say, look, Chris, that's a real tough one. I tried that. That's a tough skill to learn. Let's brainstorm a little bit how you can do that. That's a much different approach than you need to do it. And you're sitting there thinking, who the hell is he to tell me? He's going to get 15 years, you know? So we are changing our thinking on that a little bit. But I think it applies to everything. I think that the supervisors need to be the ones that sit in on groups once in a while and give feedback. But if you don't know what to look for, how effective are you going to be sitting in on that group, right? So you got to go through the training. You got to maybe co-facilitate some groups. You got to get your skills on.
I would say we're finding that even with our implementation of Yazzie.
Absolutely.
We've been
Absolutely.
working with a group of mostly supervisors, but not entirely in a coaching development mode. And some of them aren't actually doing assessments. So it is, you can really see the difference where folks are doing them versus not doing them themselves in terms of their ability to help their staff and to understand
And to
what's
buy
going
in.
on.
Yeah. If all I get's a piece of paper, look it up on a computer, it's much different.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
the other thing I want to add, and I think it's a struggle for us here and probably for many other places, What becomes important to people is what they get measured on.